Okay, here we are at Empire Bar and Pool, and we're here to interview the GOAT, Alec Evreniadis, Alec Iceman Evreniadis, and I think it's important, Iceman, that we start at the beginning, and really it's about how you were formed as a young player.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh, basically I started off in the pubs. Every pub had a couple of pool tables, and I used to drink down at, I drank my Coke and orange juice down at the Arab Steed Hotel, and we used to live in the city, and my brothers used to go to the hotel or the pub all the time, and I'd follow them down and play a few games with them, and they'd beat me and they'd tease me, and then they'd beat me again and tease me some more, and to the point where I got sick of that, and I started playing the game more regularly. They wouldn't be there, but the owner knew who I was, and as long as I didn't cause any trouble, I'd be fine. I kept practicing and playing, and got to the point where I joined a team in the city of Adelaide back in but when I was 14. So what's that, like 32 years ago? Actually 42 years ago.
I'm gonna say.
Seems like yesterday. And basically started off with the City of Adelaide, which was a good stepping stone. I didn't go straight into Super League. I joined Super League when I was like 17 at the Angus Hotel.
Yep.
They were only there for a year. That pub closed down, and we moved to the Bay Motel down at Glenelg. And basically that year I made my first state team.
That's right.
Playing position number 1 or 2 generally, and in the old days number 2 was the prime player. You would always put your best player at 2, and everyone enjoyed that challenge at number 2, and number 1 obviously was very important, with only 5 singles and 3 doubles.
Yep.
It wasn't 6 singles,
6 singles and 3 doubles.
Yeah, 6 and 3, and not a lot of room to move. You get 1 frame every week, and if you played a bad game or a bad shot that really cost you the frame, you'd be wondering whether you got a game the week after.
No, they were tough days back then.
Yeah, so that's way back then is when it all started, and making my first state team in 1986, and of course you were captain that year. We went to Perth, so yeah.
That was a great experience. For us, I'd had a little bit of experience. Of course, that was my 3rd nationals. So at that time, I think there was only one other player. I think it was Johnny Kendall was the only other guy that had been to a nationals before. So we effectively blooded 10 new players.
Right.
And of course, you were one of those. But it was a great experience because we actually roomed together.
Yeah.
And it gave us the opportunity to discuss a lot. And you were a sponge.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone in the game has ever asked as many questions as you did, as you were sort of formulating your own game.
Yeah.
And you drew advice from a number of other players, not just me.
Yeah.
Who else helped you?
All the names that I'll mention have all been rated as top players, in the day. And Shane Kilpatrick, 100 break snooker player, played. That was my first year at the Angus Hotel. Then we moved to the Bay Motel, and he came down there as well.
So 85 singles champ.
Yeah. So that was Shane Kilpatrick, and of course yourself. I'd go to nearly every knockout I could in the city. And of course back then you could get a license when you were 16, so you could get your L plates at 16. 2 weeks later you could have your license. So of course I'm driving my dad's HR to every knockout around town.
Yeah.
And Eric Hansen, another, he didn't make any state teams, but he had every shot in the book.
Highly respected player.
Yeah, he had every shot in the book, and he was quite clever in the game.
Yeah.
If we're at the knockout, we talk about what happened the night before, because basically if we lost, one of us would leave, and we'd talk about, did you win last night, and what happened, and try and work out scenarios and different options. So he was a big influence as well. And of course down at the Royal Hotel, I grew up sort of when I was 18, did my apprenticeship down in Theberton, and around the corner of the Royals there, not too far away, and all their knockouts on Saturday, Sunday. That was great fun. I'd be there at midday and leave there at like 8 p.m. every week, every Saturday, every Sunday. And Bob Mesnell, He was amazing in his tactics.
Yeah.
Couldn't pot unless he,
2 shots.
unless he had 2 shots, and basically, and another player that never made a state team, and a lot of players wouldn't know, is Chaz DeLuca.
Chaz, same, a very good tactical player.
Now, Chaz could give 2 shots. You could have 2 balls on the table, the black and your ball, and he'd still be happy to give you 2 shots. He was very, very good at that.
Yeah.
And of course, do you remember the old table 3?
Yeah.
I couldn't sleep last night, and I'm thinking about it. And this old table 3 that used to be at the Royal.
Yep.
So it used to be, there used to be 4 tables there, and it was the 3rd table. And whenever you drew that table, it was tight. Everything was tight about it. It was a struggle to go down the rails. You're better off doubling the ball or kissing it off.
Yeah.
The centres were tight. So these tactical players were happy to give you 2 shots.
Yeah.
Because they knew it was tough.
It's very tough for you to finish. Yeah.
And then once somebody, I don't know who, decided we're going to move table 3 to table 1. Do you remember that?
I remember table 1. Yeah.
So table 3, the tight one, went to table 1. So now all the tournaments finished like an hour and a half later.
Yeah.
It was all tactics and it was tough. Okay, and it was that was interesting. And the tactics that we learned was a big part of the old game. The old game where
it was imperative
you didn't have to hit a cushion, and 4 balls didn't have to hit a rail and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that was a big part of the Royal Hotel.
Yeah, well, the Royal, I mean, that was it was amazing. You could actually, I reckon, by the early 90s, to win the Royal was like winning the major championship.
Yeah.
Because there was so many good players that used to play there. You'd turn up there and there'd be probably 10 or 12 current or former South Australian representatives.
Yeah.
Half of those players would be Australian representatives as well. So trying to win $100 at the Royal was tough gig.
Yeah. Yeah, and like $100 40 years ago might be equivalent to what, 500 now, maybe.
I reckon it's closer to $1,000. I mean, you could buy a carton of cigarettes, fill the car up, and still have money left over.
Yeah.
By trying to do that now for 500, you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It was great value for you. $2 to go down there and slog it out with all the good players. A was a good training ground.
Yeah.
But also, if you could win it, then it was just topped up your week.
Yeah. And you had the guys like Johnny Kendall, yourself, me, Mick Della would come down there.
Steve Seabone.
Occasionally. Steve was early one there. Bob Mesnell was always there. Chaz was always there, and it was just tough. It was tough to win, and all single frame. Look what we got these days. We go to a pool hall and they got 10 tables, and you run a knockout, and there's like they use 4 or 5 tables.
Yeah.
What about the old days? You go to a knockout, 1 table, 16 players, and you just had to wait for your game.
Yeah, I know.
Right? You wait and you sat and you waited. You wouldn't want to get out there and make a mess of things.
Yeah.
Like
it's a long
It's a long night.
You're sitting on the bench for a long time, so you don't want to waste the opportunity to get there.
So that's how you learnt to basically, protect your wicket. Like don't just give the frame away.
Yeah. Because
otherwise it's a long drive home.
Well, that's something that's probably undervalued in the modern game. Because it's such an aggressive game now. And, that's important to have that sort of firepower where you can threaten people with, I can go game from anywhere.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times we see players probably attack without an obvious finish. And it's fine to say, okay, no, I can be creative and I can knock that out and I can double that and I can do this. But the bottom line is that when you're playing single frame, particularly at national level, that every frame is valuable.
Yeah.
And as much as we try and split our teams up when we do go away to try and give us a balance of aggressive and defensive players, it does help to have a balance. And I think that's why you personally have achieved as much as you have. Because you've always had a good understanding of what's a realistic finish, and then, or can I control the frame now?
Yeah.
And when I say control, you try and control one part of the table and restrict the opposition's opportunity to play a better shot than you've just played.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, hey, look, I love watching the young players play. Yeah, they look fantastic. They pot everything in, but it can be scary at the same time.
Yeah, they go with no backup.
That's right.
And you need to have a backup.
You need to have a little bit of backup.
Yeah.
I mean, multi-frame, no problem with that. We're trying to find a rhythm and get going, but
Yeah.
certainly at the Nationals, the tough sides, and WA have always had those tough sides. South Australia, WA, and to a certain extent, I think probably Tassie as well. They had some pretty tough players. But yeah, and that's probably why for years, WA, South Australia, we're probably the dominant through the 80s and then probably to the mid 90s.
Yeah.
And then we sort of hit the gas again later on. But let's talk about your first Australian title. 93 in Darwin?
94 in Mildura.
Yeah, I thought you won 93 as well.
No, 94. 94 in
I've got my
Mildura.
dates wrong, haven't I?
Yeah.
So it was 94 in Mildura.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ben Vito was the Victorian rep, and of course back then you played just one singles rep from each state in a best of 7, I think it was, in a round robin, best of 7.
Yep.
And Ben Vito was there, Justin Van Dyken, who I played in the final.
Yes, that's right. Tassie boy.
Yep. He was quite interesting because every time he played a shot, a ball had to either cushion, of course, or pocket the ball.
Yep.
And he had this uncanny knack of just getting the ball to the pocket and it would drop in.
Okay, yeah.
Do you remember?
He did play a lot of dead weight. Yeah.
He just used to get everything just to the hole, and you think, hang on, it's going to be a foul. Oh no, it's going to make it. It was crazy how he did it all the time. I can't remember a lot of the other reps, but
yeah. Well, I mean, sorry, the Australian titles. I mean, that's obviously why. We play. We all want to be able to win an Australian single.
That's right.
And obviously, the main reason we play is to win the teams event. That's still recognised as I suppose, the gold medal event of the Nationals because it's an indication of how strong your state is.
That's right.
But then individual honours is also something we all like to achieve.
Yeah.
You actually won 3 of them, I believe.
That's right. Yeah. 97.
Yep.
I was a bit annoyed that year. I won the singles.
Yep.
I won the doubles.
Oh, that's right, with Phil that year. Yeah, that's right.
Won the doubles.
Yep.
I beat Kelvin 5-0 in the singles.
Yep.
Won the doubles with Phil, and we lost the final to WA in the teams.
That's right.
And I would have been the first player to have won singles, doubles,
and captain the winning team. Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's a trilogy that that probably no one will ever get the chance to do again because we don't play doubles anymore.
No.
So it would have been a record that will never be broken.
I did get player of the carnival that year as well.
Okay, yeah.
I won Berry. No, I won Berry and Ballarat that year as well. That was like everything just worked that year.
Yeah.
So,
that's a massive year.
You know, if you go away winning one tournament in a year,
you win one of the majors in a year, you've done well.
Of course, winning the state singles and the state doubles gave me the opportunity to represent South Australia at the Nationals. So singles, doubles, Berry, Ballarat, Australian singles, Australian doubles. Not bad.
Not bad, all right.
Not bad.
We'd all like to be able to have that on our CV.
Yeah. Back then it was it was sharp, you know.
Okay, well, let's move along then. We go 99. Melbourne.
Yeah.
I think Calvin had just returned now to South Australia from the West.
Right.
He represented us that year. He was, it was always good to have his enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Calvin's been one of those guys that's always been, great teammate. 100% behind every shot and every player, and gives everything. We won. I think that
we
was
beat Victoria in the final.
Excuse me. That was that the start? I think, and that was the start of our 6 in a row.
Yeah, right.
So that was amazing. Really, I mean, no one is going to do that again.
No,
it's highly unlikely. 6 in a row was just incredible.
Yeah,
and it also was done with a reasonable mix of players. It's not like it was just all the same players went back every year.
I think there was a general
core. The core was always
the
core, and that's the key. Isn't it?
Yeah.
To have a successful team, you need to maintain that core of senior players, and then when the new players come in, help them along,
That's
help
right.
them through.
Yeah.
Because I remember 2001. 2001 was my comeback year.
Right.
And that was, I think, that was number 3, and we did 3 more afterwards. So
Yeah.
that was just amazing.
Well, 02 was Tassie.
That's
won
right.
won the Australian singles again.
That's 02. Well, that's right. Because
Yeah.
I knew that was the third. That was the
The third one.
the third one. Yeah, and that was. That was again very tough field down there. I mean, every year, because then the singles at that stage had opened up.
That's
so
right.
All the teams could play. So
That's right.
It meant it was even harder. I mean, surely it gave everyone a chance, and particularly, I mean, you just think how many singles we would have won in the early days if it was open.
Oh yeah.
Like, all the teams could play because we had so many good players.
Well, we always felt if you won the state singles, you won the Australian title.
You're Australian favourite.
Yeah.
You're favourite for the title.
That's right. Because it was so hard to win our state title.
Our state title was always very tough.
All these tournaments I've won, I've only won 5 state singles over like 40 years. You know, so that's how hard. I've won 14 doubles, but only 5 singles.
Well, even that. I mean, when you say only, it's still 5 is still a great record.
Well,
but when you consider that you've probably been the GOAT for a long time now, it still shows you how tough competition is in South Australia.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Okay, so we're into the 2000s now, into the new millennium.
Well, should we? World title, world champion, 97, 96. Sorry,
96. That's right. Let's get back. That's right, because that's the world championship started in 93, and you were part of that original side. I was, I think I was number 12. Only 9 went, so I didn't quite make the cut, and I knew no one was going to pull out because to go to the first one was going to be huge.
Yeah.
And now we've actually got to go to number 22 to actually get a full team to go.
True. Yeah.
Not that first one. But tell me about that. The first world champs, Manchester.
Well, that year we went to South Africa on the way.
Okay.
So we had an issue with jet lag.
Okay.
So we were flying from here straight over to Manchester, and it would take some people 2 days to get over the jet lag, some people 4 or 5 days, you know, and you're losing matches to teams. So I had this argument with George Harwood. I said, why are we playing France the first match every year? Well, what does it matter? You got to play everyone anyway, he says.
Yeah.
I said, well, the difference is it's only a 50-50 match against France on the first day.
Yeah.
But at the end of the tournament, I'd back us to beat them every time.
Yep.
Because we've all acclimatised to the tables, to the jet lag and everything like that, right? And he just scoffed at it, but it was damn true, right? And I said, well, it shouldn't be. It should be just drawn out of the hat. It should be different every year. You know, it's unfair that we play the same team every year. Yep. So next year it changed.
Okay.
But we went to South Africa that year, 96, and basically went across, got over the jet lag, had practice on the same sort of tables in South Africa.
Yep.
I think New Zealand may have come.
Yeah, it was Tri-Nations, I think. Yeah.
First time.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we've only got to go straight up. So the jet lag wasn't as bad.
Yep.
It was hardly any, you know, the same sort of time zone.
Yeah.
So, of course, then that year, the guys, you know, the experience of John Russell, Jack Halligan, Mick Della, myself, Hogan, Macri, who we don't talk about a lot. You don't see Mick Macri much, but he was a great player.
He
won
he wrote the Australian singles champ. That was 95 or something.
I'm not sure when he won it.
Yeah,
he was the current Australian champion, so he won it in 95.
95, that's
yes.
right.
Avellino.
Yep.
Kenny Mitchell was there. He was in the team.
And Cran, I think.
And Cran.
Yeah, it was a fantastic side.
So we had a good mix there, and so it worked. You know, going straight up really did work.
I've thought about that particular team and how good it was, and I tried to think, well, what separated that team from some of the other great teams, and we've seen a number of good teams.
Yeah.
And now I thought, well, I think that was the only time where the guys went on their own.
Yes, right. There's no ladies.
Yeah, it was no sort of third-party interference. And, you know, I'm not being disparaging to wives or girlfriends, but the unit then stayed tight because they had each other. That was it. There was no sort of, I'm just got to go to my room, my wife wants to go to dinner somewhere or whatever's going on.
Yeah.
The whole thing was, all the unit was together the whole time. it was just a fantastic result. Obviously, for everyone back here, we were celebrating as hard as you guys when we found out that you'd won. It was.
I don't know how big a part that played in it, because all them players I mentioned, they're all great players.
Yeah.
They've all won events. They're all winners. They know how to win, and that's what it's about. You're not taking some newbie over there who's never seen them tables before. All of them players have been there before, and what stands out in my mind was the confidence that Mick Macri had. It's like, these guys are human. They bloody miss. Don't worry about them. Let's get them. Like, we can do this, and it just was
permeates through the side. You get someone like that.
Because for many years England kept beating us. They were sharp. They were great players. You look at players like Chris Melling and Keith Brewer, who was the best player.
Keith Brewer was their number one back then. Lee Kendall, Stacey, Twister,
Daz Ward.
They're
all great players.
Sensational players.
And we're going up against them, and it wasn't like 8 frames. It wasn't 3 rounds of 8. It was 27. It was 3 nines.
Okay, yeah.
So it was 27. You had to get to 14.
Yeah.
It wasn't, it wasn't a short run. So in the end, it was great to get that win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that to me, I think, is probably the hardest one to do. We've travelled halfway around the world. We're playing on foreign tables, and they're hard to adjust to those little tables, because I know that I only went twice, but as long as I stayed in the middle of the table, I was okay. But as soon as I had to play multi-cushion, I just couldn't find the line. I don't know what changed. I couldn't visualise my lines properly, and I would get it out of position, which would cost me. So it is something that it's a different game on those tables.
Yeah, absolutely. And then of course the guys did it 20 years later. So
hey, that was amazing.
That was great.
I mean, to go back and to consider that, Mick Delahunty wins in '86, and his son captains the team that wins it in 2000.
It was 2016.
16. That's right, exactly 20 years.
And the players that are in that team were all great players.
Sensational.
Mark Robertson, Scary, they're all names right now that everybody knows and talks about.
They're top shelf today, and they're still going well.
Woodsy,
that's right. I mean, you have a look. Again, it was like the next generation, wasn't it?
That's right.
It took 20 years, but we eventually came back and got them again.
Well, to be fair, there was a lot of times where we didn't take our strongest team.
No, that's right. We were talking about that, how far down the line you had to go to get players to go. It's a very expensive trip.
Rusty Wheeler, another player that was there, So
yeah, no, it's very hard to get them. And again, it seems to be that a lot of players say, who's in the team?
Who's going?
Who's going? If they're not going, well, I'm not going. So they sort of put pressure on each other to actually to say, you got to come too. And then if they didn't, then you sort of ended up with sort of number 22 in the ranking, filling up the numbers.
You had no room for gaps. You had to.
Everyone had the donate spot.
You can't donate frames back to the opposition because it's just so hard to get one, let alone give them one and then try and get that back and another one.
Try and get it in front again.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's very tough. Okay, look, we'll finish this now because what I want to do is I actually want to do our final interview at your house.
Right.
And why do you think I want to do that?
I might have some trophies that you might want to have a look at.
Yeah, I think Tiger Woods might have a wall that's similar to yours. But yeah, that's how many. It's fantastic. But that's the main reason I want to do it.
Yeah.
So we can do it at your place. Everyone out there, look forward to watching the final of this series because it'll all be shown on TMC, or That's My Cue. We'll have this and part 2 at that particular time. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, mate. Thanks very much.
No problem.
Cheers.